Hi, I'm Kathryn, and I'm a senior systems engineer here at AGI, and today I want to talk to you about two-line elements. Two-line elements are the data that are used to describe satellites. They are the fundamental pieces of information used to say where these different satellites are and used to propagate where they are going to be going. Now, a two-line element is actually created by NORAD as a common way to share the position information about different satellites. They have the mission to measure all of the satellites in the sky that are softball size and larger, and they put out these different two-line elements that describe the position of that satellite as it was measured by their sensors. You can see here all of the different pieces of information that go into a two-line element. The satellite's international number. This is how you distinguish the International Space Station from a geostationary satellite like DirecTV. They have the epoch and the Julian date. What time and when was this particular satellite measured? We have the information about its ephemeris type, its inclination, its right ascension of ascending node, its eccentricity. And all of this information comes together to create the position of the satellite as it was measured as an estimate over all of the different observations that were taken. Now, once you have a TLE, it's important to know how often is this information updated. Some satellites are going to be updated many times a day. Like the International Space Station, since it has people on it, is going to be updated much more frequently than a piece of debris that we only are going to measure every couple of days to make sure that we still have a rough estimate of where it is. So NORAD creates the timetable on when each individual satellite is going to be updated and the frequency of that update. The accuracy of a two-line element is dependent on a number of different factors. Some of those factors include the type of orbit that the satellite is in, the shape of it, the type of sensors used to create that initial orbital estimate and to create the TLE itself. So all of these come together to determine how accurate a particular TLE will be at any given time. A good rule of thumb is that you want to use TLEs that are within a couple of days or a couple of weeks from the time period for which you're doing your analysis. Any time outside of that, and you're going to wind up with a less accurate and a less clear picture of where that satellite actually is going to be for the time period that you're doing your analysis. Now, all of this comes together in STK through the use of the satellite database. The satellite database is more than just the two-line elements that describe the position of the satellites. It also includes your satellite database file, your .sd file. This includes things like who the owner of the satellite is, what the satellite's mission is, the country involved, different types of information like that. You also have files that include the frequency information and latest update information. So all of these individual files all come together under the hood to create your satellite database in STK. The next thing we're going to talk about is how to update these files and where you use them in STK. So here I'm going to go into my scenario file, and the first thing I'm going to do is look at the properties for my scenario. If I go to my 2D or my basic database page, here you can see where my database defaults are. So the satellite database file, that SD file, is the one that controls the owner and mission information. So this is the decoder ring that will tell you that a TLE with an international number of 25544 has a common name of ISS, or the International Space Station, and its mission is Earth observation and Earth science. So this is where you would change and update that SD file when you have new information that is going to be added to your satellite database. The other place that your satellite database is used is when you're inserting satellites into your scenario. So here I can choose a satellite and insert it from the standard object database or from a TLE file. Either one of these options will be using that TCE file or that TLE file that we just talked about. If I go to the insert from standard object database, you'll see that we have two options. We can use our online option or our local option. The online option is when STK is going to go out to the public website and pull down all of the two-line element information for the satellites that you're interested in over the time period of your scenario. If you're using the local option, this is going to go to the two-line element file that is installed locally onto your system. STK comes shipped with a two-line element file that is current to the date for when that STK version was released, or you can update it on your own using the utilities data update option. So here I'm going to look for a satellite with a common name of ISS, looking for that International Space Station. And you're going to see in the standard object database, I get a number of different options, and they tell me they're different sources. So I can see some of these sources are the standard object database sources, and I can see some of these are from our local database, from those local files. The other thing I have is an operational status. So if I sort by operational status, I can see that we have a number of decayed satellites. So obviously those are not going to have active TLEs for the time period that I'm doing analysis on. I can see non-operational satellites. And then once I get into the operational satellites, I can find the different satellite that I'm looking for. So if I find that International Space Station, again, with a satellite catalog number of 25544, I can see that is the International Space Station. I can choose a color and insert it into my scenario. Once I have my International Space Station added, I can go and actually look at this International Space Station and open up his properties to see how this International Space Station is created in my scenario. And if I look at a preview of the two-line elements, I can see all of the different two-line elements for that time period for which my scenario has been created. So because I used the standard object database and the online option, it shows to pull down all of the TLEs relevant for the time period of my analysis. So since my analysis is over a week time period, I have multiple different TLEs over this time period that correlate to my International Space Station. So this is a short overview of the two-line elements. Have a great day.